Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Removing Roadblocks to Getting Published. Our speaker today is Sharon Elliott, who will present Removing the Roadblock by Writing a Winning Book Proposal. Live significantly. That's the inspiring message of Sharon Norris Elliott, award-winning author, popular conference speaker, and astute Bible teacher. Sharon loves Jesus, wants life to count, and encourages everyone who will listen to live a life that matters. An author of 11 books, Sharon is excited about the release of her latest book, which is called 366 Glimpses of God, Getting to Know the God Who Knows You. Some of her other published books include Why I Get Into Trouble, which was the first of her children's series, Boomerangs to Arrows, a godly guide for launching young and adult children, which was her second parenting title, and her second women's title was Power Suit, the armor of God fit for the feminine frame. And as a partner with Writing for Your Life, Sharon offers several types of editorial and consulting services. So check out her page on our website so that you can learn more about how Sharon can help you. After Sharon's presentation, you can ask questions by typing them into the Q&A feature on the webinar screen. So if you don't see that, just roll over the screen and you'll see it there. So anyway, we're very glad to have Sharon with us today. Take it away, Sharon.
Hi, Brian. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. All you folks who are watching, I know you want to get your books out of your head and down onto paper so that a publisher will publish it for you. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Brian, I would like to ask, however, can folks go ahead and do questions while we are rolling?
Oh, certainly. No, that's certainly fine.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. If anyone has a questions at any time, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, that's great. So the book proposal is a document that is going to be probably about 20, 25, maybe 30 or more pages. It's not just this one page. Now you can send what's kind of called a one page to a publisher, but a publisher is going to want more information about your book. And the great thing that I find about a book proposal is that you, as the author, get clarity as to what you are writing about. I know we all start out thinking, oh yes, I know exactly what I want to write. But when it comes to writing a publishable work, there are questions that your publisher is going to ask you and that your publisher is going to want to know that you need to answer in advance. And having those answers in advance will help you to navigate how you are going to actually write the book, what really needs to be in the book to make it what your audience would want. Remember, we're not writing just a book we want to write. We're writing a book that other people will want to read. And so even before you start writing your book proposal, I think a good question to ask yourself is, what is it that I have to say that other people want to hear and need to hear for their advancement? So the questions and answers in the sections of the book proposal lead you to a full understanding of what your book is. You get complete clarity as to how to go from beginning to end with your book. And you also let the publisher know where you're going, what it is you have to say. And then the publisher can make a decision about whether or not they are going to, or he or she is going to publish that book if your book fits into their line and things of that nature. Okay, so that's kind of a background on why to do a book proposal. Now, lots and lots of people are self-publishing nowadays. And so you might think, well, I don't need a book proposal if I'm going to publish my own book myself. If a publisher is not going to look at it, I'm just going to do it myself. Well, I suggest to you that you need a book proposal as a self-published author, maybe even more than someone who is going to publish with a publisher, because again, you need just the same amount of clarity, the same amount of direction that an author needs who is going to publish with a company. However, you need it even more so because you're not going to have that company behind you. You only have yourself. Where you go is where your book goes. I'm sure that Brian is going to do probably another piece on the marketing of a book. And that is a whole, I think you would agree, Brian, that is a whole different animal when it comes to the marketing. You can write
yes. So yes to both of those. Yeah. we will be doing a presentation later on marketing. And yes, it is a total different animal.
Right. So see, you can have an exciting book and have quite a bit to say, but if nobody's going to ever see it, there's a problem. So your book proposal is going to set you up for success by having in your book everything you need to have to appeal to your audience, to say what it is you want to say and what your audience wants to hear. So getting that roadblock out of the way is what we're going to talk about. And how do I write a great book proposal? Well, you're going to start out with when you type up your book proposal, the first thing, of course, that goes on the cover is going to have to be a working title of your book. And please don't be married to your title that you're working on. A publisher, there are several reasons why publishers exist. And one of those reasons is because they know how to take the book and pull out of that book what it is really about. That title needs to say that, but it needs to say that in obviously a catchy kind of way. When people don't know what your book is about from the title, they're going to walk away from it in a bookstore, or if it's on Amazon on a screen or what have you. People are looking for what they need. And so your title must hit the felt need of the audience. And if it doesn't do that, your title is a bust. So on your book, now you might not be great. I know I wasn't great for a very long time writing titles. As a matter of fact, just to give you a little story, an example of that, my first women's book was written on the heels of my presenting this information at conferences. So I would go to women's retreats, women's conferences, and present this material. And the material had to do with the children of Israel and their journey and the problems that they faced, etc., like that. Well, we talked a lot about how the children of Israel needed a new kind of food, and God was actually taking them to the land of milk and honey. And they were coming from eating slavery food, right? The leeks and the onions. And I would make a joke about how they were so used to eating the wrong thing that they had become connoisseurs of the way the Egyptians ate leeks and onions when they were being sent to milk and honey. So my original title for the book was Connoisseur of Egyptian Delights. Oh, that sounded great when I spoke it at a retreat. All the women understood what I was talking about, but on a book cover, that looks like a cookbook. That has nothing to do with what was inside of the book. And so the publisher, thank the Lord, the publisher was able to look past my silly title of the book, read the contents, and find out that what I was talking about was helping women to get to the land of milk and honey in their lives. And so they titled the book Living a Milk and Honey Life. Subtitle, Letting Go of What's Holding You Back. Oh, now when someone picks up that book, they know what it's about. So your publisher can help you with the title, but you need to have a working title on the cover of your book proposal that begins that proposal by telling people what that book is about. Of course, have your byline on the cover, which is by and your name. And we're talking about the cover of the book proposal now. And then your contact information. You would be surprised how many people leave their contact information off of the book proposal. You want the publisher to get back in touch with you. Okay, then first page of the book proposal is going to start with a 1-sentence description of the book. If you cannot tell me in 1 sentence what your book is about, you don't know what your book is about. Okay, if you have to talk for 30 minutes or you have to talk for 2 paragraphs, you haven't narrowed it down enough for me to be able to catch it, for the publisher to be able to catch it, for then your reader to be able to catch it. So narrow down your idea into 1 sentence. It's like if you've been to conferences and things, you've heard of the elevator speech, right? If you're going to meet the publisher or the person who's hiring for the job or what have you, in the elevator, you have only the time between floors to make your pitch. That is the 1-sentence description of the book. So pitch it in 1 sentence. And then go ahead and the very next section is a longer paragraph that would start with that 1 sentence, but say maybe 3 or 4 more sentences going into depth about what the book is about. So your 1-sentence description, your 1-paragraph description, and then give an overview. An overview would be something like what would be on the back cover of the book. Now, up until now, the things you have been writing have not taken a lot of creativity. You're just telling, this is what my book is about, in this 1 sentence and in the 1 paragraph. Now, get a little creative. If someone picks the book up because they're attracted by the title, they're attracted by your name, they're attracted by the cover of the book, we have another webinar that talks about book design, okay? You got to make sure that you watch that one as well. But someone's attracted to the book, they pick it up, the next thing they do is flip it over on the back, and they read that back cover copy. If you know what your book is about, if you are the best salesperson for your book, then the publishing company may not have to write that for you. You write the copy. What would make you, or what would make your, let's say, ideal reader pick that book up? What is that person thinking? What is the felt need inside that woman, that man, that child, whoever your audience is? What are they thinking that makes them want to pick up this book? What do they need? Okay, that's what you're going to write on the back cover, and that becomes your overview in the book proposal. Okay, now what I do when I consult with people who want to write a book and I work with them with their book proposal, I work with you to actually storyboard your whole book. And all of these questions, all of these sections of the book proposal, we actually work through with you in a really fun, either in a fun seminar or one-on-one. I work with you so that to help you think through this book and think through these sections so that you'll know what to say. So the next section of the book proposal, I call the unique selling proposition. Now, let me interject right here. All publishing companies have what's known as a book proposal template that they'll give you. Some will have it right online. You can just download it and kind of fill it in. Others might have it on their website. They might have, well, online. They have it on their website. Not that many people now will send it to you in the mail. You tell I've been writing for a while and I was using mail? What? Now we use the internet for just about everything. But companies have what I'm telling you right now, a book proposal template in their style, all right, and with the titles of things their way. So what I do with you when we sit down and consult, I tell you what these sections are, and then any template that you would get from a publishing company, you would be able just to plug these things in, you know, based on what that publishing company kind of calls it. Okay, so they're all the same section. They might sections. They might be in different order on a publisher's template, but basically all of this information is still what you would want to put in, okay, to a book proposal. So the unique selling proposition I put in after the overview. Sometimes people put the overview next. And that section you really need to think about, because you want to tell the publisher when the consumers in the target market purchase and read your book, you put your working title, they will. Now, what is it that the reader will get from your book? You should know in advance. And you are going to tell your publisher they're going to get, you know, A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here are these 5 things that the reader will get. All right, so that's these are the distinctives in the book. Well, then you also know, this is where a little bit more work comes in. You also need to tell your publisher exactly how the book is going to do that. And so one section says when the consumer in the target market reads, you know, X book, she will 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's say. Then the next section is, here are the distinctives. Here are the benefits, here are the distinctives, because the book will, and then the same order that you put those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're going to say exactly how the book will do this. So, for example, if you're writing a book, let's say on prayer, and you say when the consumer in the target market purchases Pray Every Day, let's say, they will, or she will, number one, know how to pray. Let's say that's if she's going to know how to pray. Well, how is the book going to do that? So down in the distinctives part, here's the benefit. She'll know how to pray. The first distinctive then will be because the book will maybe give her prayer starters for the different elements that the book will cover. So you see, here's what I'm saying will happen. Here's how it will happen. Now, what that does for you as the author in your storyboard that we work on when we get to the chapter part of the book, we're going to be sure to come back to those distinctives to say, okay, where in the book are you actually putting these prayer starters or whatever you've written down as distinctives? Is the book actually going to do what you say it's going to do? And you have it right here in your proposal promising this will happen and how it will happen. And so it keeps you on track with making sure that, okay, I'm going to actually put this in the book. This benefits and distinctive section of the proposal is one of the most important sections because it guarantees the publisher that the book will actually do what it says it will do, and it guarantees that you will stick to your plan and actually make that happen. Okay. Once you get all of that figured out, you're like, woo, I've got a great book. I know what it's going to do. I know what it's going to do. I know how it's going to do it. Then you need to start talking about your audience. Who exactly is this book for? Now, I know you would love it to say, oh, this book is for everyone. But there's only one book that has been written that really is for everyone, and that is the Bible. Okay, and that's been done. Okay, so you get to write your own book, and there you need to have a target audience. Why? Because the publisher is going to want to know who to sell this to, and they have a whole marketing department that is put together to be able to reach the market that they reach. So let me just put in a little caveat here as well. Only send your book proposals to companies that publish the types of books that you write, that you are writing. Don't send a children's book to a company that publishes academic books for college graduates. All right. So do your due diligence and your research on the companies that you are going to send your book proposal to, and you begin to zero in, right, on people who actually would be interested in publishing your book. Okay, so on audience, who is the primary audience? So who is that exact person? If you were sitting across the table from your ideal reader, who is that? And so that person, their age, their gender, or his age, his gender, you can go as deep as you want, maybe his socioeconomic situation, his married or single, whatever it is, who you're writing to needs to be specific enough for the publisher to know. Let's say if the publisher were going to put the book in a bookstore, what section would it go in? But it needs to be broad enough that the publisher can see they're going to have enough sales. Okay, specific and broad. Right. So it's hard. So, but you can do it. So the audience, the primary audience, is who will read the book or who the book is written for. The secondary audience is who is going to buy the book. All right. And that's not always the person who's going to read it. So for example, in my case, I write for the Christian market, and I write for women, and I write for teens, and for children. And then I have a couple of books that are general, right? But I write for women, probably women who are about, let's say, about 35 to 65. That area of my women's books have been for that audience so far. Now, why do I say that? Because I do not write the types of information that high school students or young adults, maybe young marrieds, I haven't written yet. I could write for that audience, but a young married couple, like I have a son and a daughter-in-law who are in their late 20s, early 30s, they don't read the same books that 65-year-olds read. The 65-year-old is probably not starting in a young marriage, never been married before, have a bunch of little kids around, things like that. So be as specific as possible with your audience, but then also I was on the secondary audience. The person who reads the book is not always the person who buys the book. So for me, again, since I write Christian literature, right? A pastor, a Christian counselor, a Christian teacher, a grandmother for my children's books. See, those are all secondary audience. The people who buy the book not necessarily are not the people who the book is written for. And when you tell your publisher this information, you see the publisher starts saying, oh, okay, this is the audience. These are the people who I'm selling to. Okay, hope that makes sense. I'm sure it does. The next thing, or another thing you want to include in a winning book proposal, is the felt need and the mission of the book. Now, you have heard me several times say those words, felt need, felt need, felt need. The felt need of a person is the need that they are not expressing. It is, I guess you could say, like just under the surface, but it is the thing that drives the reader, the audience, to buy the book. I can give you an example. I was working with a group writing their book proposals at one of my seminars one time, and a lady wanted to give her story. Well, lots of people want to tell their story. You might be out there wanting to tell your story. All right, so this lady wanted to tell her story, and my question to her was, who cares? Now, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just being honest. Who cares about your story? Right now, I am reading a memoir. You know what memoir I'm reading? Becoming, by Michelle Obama. Why am I reading it? Because it's Michelle Obama. Okay, I don't know her personally. I'm interested in her. She's a famous person. She's an interesting person. She's a great writer, by the way. And so I'm reading that book, right? Now, I have no idea until I finish reading it, and I've just cracked it open. I don't know what it's about. I don't know what she's going to say, but I'm reading it because it's her. All right? Most people who are writing their own story, nobody knows them. Nobody knows you. Nobody is looking on Amazon for you and your story. And I know that's a hard thing to hear, but it's true. Your mama's going to buy it. Hopefully your husband or your wife is going to buy it. Your immediate circle of friends are probably going to buy it, or maybe even your church family. But that is not enough for a publisher to be interested. Now, what you do need is a compelling story. So this lady who I was working with, she wanted to tell her story. She couldn't put her finger on why someone else would want to read her story. And so I do my seminars over a 2-day, period. So we get together on Friday, a few hours on Friday night, and then we come back on Saturday and spend the day writing the book proposal. Well, she went back to her room at the hotel and ruminated over, my discouraging words. And she came up with the felt need from her book. And I kept saying, well, why does anybody want to read your story? What is it that you have to say? And she came back that next day realizing that what God had taught her in her experience and what it was she wanted to share was that she found a way to be released from shame. Oh, many women are dealing with that issue. You see, they're not looking for her, but they have a felt need to be released from shame. So she found, her book, she found what she was writing about, and she could tell her story, but her story would come under the lessons that she learned about being released from shame. So that's what I mean when I talk about the felt need, right? You might have a felt need to just write the book to get your story out of you. That's fine and good, but what is it about your story that people need, that other people need? How are we doing, Brian?
You're doing great, Sharon. I think these are so useful in terms of all the examples that you're giving.
So, I've talked through a half an hour.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Maybe we should open it up for questions. There's several people that are watching this live. Usually when we do these webinars, a lot of folks view them on a recorded basis, but if there are any questions that anyone has, feel free to enter them into the Q&A section or the chat function on the webinar. But I'll ask you one, Sharon.
Okay.
You've written in so many different like target audiences, different, and other than the content being different, obviously, is the format for you different between those, or are they pretty much the same?
Of course, it depends on the type of book. I write nonfiction, and so the format for me is pretty much the same on the types of books that I write. If it's a lot of almost everything is based on some section of scripture or some part. I see lists when I read. And so my book, for example, Raising Boys to Be Like Jesus, is based on the life of Christ. And I've taken different aspects of his life and I show how we can teach those principles for our sons. So there's a list, right? Power Suit is about the armor of God for women. So obviously that list is the list of the armor of God. And I talk about how we put those pieces on over the wrong kind of stuff we haven't taken off, and so for me, most of my books are a list of something and then I'm pulling out the principles. But the children's book is an adaptation of the story. The first one is about the sin nature. And I use the story of creation to teach about the sin nature to little kids. And then, of course, the latest, the 366 Glimpses of God, is a devotional. So it's 366 separate pieces, about God. So it depends on the kind of book that you're writing when you come to format.
Okay, good. Thank you. So we have a question from Denise about platform.
Yay.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about how you should portray your platform in a book proposal.
Okay, that's a great question. Thanks for asking it. To show your platform, you are going to include a whole section about yourself in the book proposal. So you're going to include a section on author marketing. So what are you planning to do, or what are you willing to do? What will you join with the publisher to do to sell your book? Gone are the days when you can just take a book proposal and kind of pass it across the transom, like they used to say, and the publisher would take it from there. No, publishers want to know what you are going to do and what you have been doing. Building a platform takes a lot of work. You do need to be a speaker if you're going to be a writer, because you are you're the expert on whatever it is you have written. And so you want to share your message with people. And so you start telling people, hey, I'm writing a book on XYZ, and I'd love to come to your women's group, your book club, your church, your fill in the blank, and talk about it with your group. You can do webinars like this. You can be on panels when there is an event happening. I need to sneeze. Excuse me. An event happening, but you're going to tell the publisher how you are going to get out there. So that's a section in the book proposal. That's your biography, not only just about yourself, but your marketing plans. And you need to think that through. And somebody like me, who is a writing consultant and all like that, I help you with coming up with those kinds of ideas. Also, if you have published before, you want to include your author publishing history. in your proposal. Of course, if you haven't ever written before, you don't include that section. You just don't talk about it. You don't tell them, I've never done this. You just skip that section and move right along, all right, to what you are willing to do.
Wonderful. Thank you. So you've published books with different publishing houses, and you've obviously worked with several different authors, to get their books published.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen a difference between publisher to publisher in terms of what types of platform requirements that they have?
Yes. The bigger the publisher, the bigger they want your platform to already be. And as authors, we think, man, that's unfair, right? It's kind of like, I thought that was your job as the publisher, but it is what it is. That's just the way things are. And so we have to, as authors, we need to get out there and, beat the pavement. There might be, if you're just getting started as an author, there might be times when you're speaking for free, right? You're going someplace just because you want to be there and you want to get your book seen. So different publishers are looking for, I guess you would say, different size of a platform. And when we're talking about platform, we're talking about, can people see you? Can people find you? That kind of thing. Will people travel to see you? If your name is on the program, is that going to make a difference? When people see it, to say, oh, Sharon Elliott speaking, I'm definitely going to that. And then how far are they going to come? All right. The A, B, and C speaker, if you're just getting started, you'd be considered a C speaker. You don't have a book yet. Your name recognition is, not out there. Nobody really knows you. You might be speaking for free or for just, or for your supper, okay? Or maybe just up to $100 or something like that, maybe, or gas money. A B speaker means that you have a little bit more name recognition. You probably have a book out. Maybe you're writing some magazine articles, which is a great way to start getting name recognition. A lot more people read a magazine article than read a book. And so you can get started writing magazine articles, even online, those kinds of things. And then you're going to definitely get a little more money in an honorarium as a B speaker. People are starting to hear your name and what have you. And then the A speakers, the top of the A speakers would be people like I mentioned earlier, like Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, or, the known names who get thousands and thousands of dollars, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands sometimes for their speaking, because people will cross state lines to come and see them. All right. So you have that wide range and you just start building, little by little. You start getting to know people. Let your pastor know if you're a Christian, let your pastor know that, yes, I'm speaking. He might even give you a letter that you can have if anybody wants, to know, well, is this person legit, or whatever. So yeah, different publishing houses, depending on the size of the publisher, they're going to want your platform to be larger than it just is. Now, of course, you have a really super compelling story and something that's on time and it hits right now. This is what's going on. You might just be one of those people who just, wow, the news has picked it up, or whatever. You can use social media. Please use social media to get your name out there. But a platform, name recognition, huge thing for all publishers.
So here's another good question that came in, and that is, like, when you're sending out your book proposal through email, do you need to have a cover letter? Or is just your introduction in the email along with the book proposal attachment just good enough?
Check with the publisher. The publisher's website will let you know what they want you to send, whether they need just a cover letter, whether they want the proposal, the whole proposal, and the whole proposal will even include some sample chapters, because you could write a bang-up proposal and not be able to write a lick. And so you have to be able to send them a sample of what you're actually going to write. The best way to contact publishers is to go to writers' conferences. And Writing for Your Life and Publishing in Color are two fabulous conferences that you can attend. That you will meet face-to-face with publishers, okay, and with acquisition editors who are there to find new material. And so investing in attendance at a writers' conference, they have them all over the country. People who are Christians, who are focusing on Christian books. There are Christian writers' conferences. Those of us, or those of you who are writing books that are not Christian, oriented. There are secular conferences that you can go to, but you meet face to face with publishers. That's all of my success. All, A-L-L, all of it I can trace back to attendance at a writers' conference and meeting people and making those connections, building those relationships. That is huge. All right. And then they will take your proposal, or they will tell you, send me a proposal, and you move from there.
Well, Sharon, this has been wonderful. Thank you for the shout out for Writing for Your Life and Publishing in Color conferences. We're certainly welcome to see any of our friends there, and I really hope that it does, prove to be fruitful for attendees, as the other conferences have. So,
absolutely.
But thanks so much for sharing all of your deep knowledge and experience about this whole process, because just like with so many things having to do with the publishing industry, for people who have not been involved in it, it's pretty daunting and,
yes.
Just a lot of unknowns. So
right.
I really appreciate all of your examples and all of your wisdom and experience that you've been able to share with everyone. So
you're welcome.
Thanks everyone for attending, and there will be 2 more webinars tomorrow at 11 and 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Okay. Bye-bye.